whenever you're thinking to yourself, there has to be a better way, it's coming. And LinkedIn is one of those things with networking that is just so fantastic. If you learn how to use it well, it can save you so much time and so much money.
Hey, what's going on? This is Alexander, CEO of New Ray Media. This is another episode of the New Ray Media Show. In this episode, we're going to be chatting with Kim Chackal. She is the Director of Sales and Marketing of Equifruit. Equifruit is a fair trade fruit importer and marketer that makes social impact as appetizing as pop culture. This is an interesting chat where we're going to go down memory lane with Kim for the 7 years that she's been with Equifruit and how this business has evolved into this cool, exciting business that it is now, and how they've kind of stepped away from using the fair trade as their logo and becoming their own brand and bringing their own value and entertainment into the world. So it's going to be very interesting. I hope you enjoy it.
I think we could start it off, if you're ready to, on
Sure.
Just talking about you and how, you're 8 years or 7 years in Equifruit.
Yeah, I've been with the company for 7 years. Yeah.
Okay. So 7 years, and how did you start off? Like, what was your first year there, and what position were you?
My first year. So I came in on the team December 2014, and I came in a sales role. The company was 2 people, and they didn't have anybody dedicated to sales. So I jumped in as their salesperson.
And that was right before when you were doing door to door, or like, what was your right experience? Where did they get you off? Like, what were you applying away from?
Yeah. Okay. So a brief overview of my sales career recap. In terms of longer jobs throughout CEGEP and university, I was doing door-to-door sales for a marketing agency in Montreal. We were working in the spa and beauty industry. So door-to-door selling spa packages, eventually hiring all the sales staff, training the sales staff, overseeing business trips, and then contracting directly with the spas. I was in that industry for 6-7 years. And then I took a year to go to culinary school just for fun, check that out. And then I continued in the catering industry. So I really loved food and I wanted to be in that industry, but continue with the sales and marketing side. So I worked as an event coordinator for a medium-sized catering company in Montreal. So I would book all of our catering, do all of the menu planning. Because I had the background in classical cooking, I understood what the chefs needed and what the servers needed to plan a menu. If we're going to do a menu in the middle of the forest with no kitchen, what's realistic? What kind of tools and equipment do I need to rent? So I did that for a number of years, hired all of our sales, not all of our sales, but our serving staff, bartending staff, and kitchen staff. And I got to a point after 6-7 years there where I wanted to keep going with the sales thing, but I felt like there was something missing in my life where I wanted to do something that was making the world a better place. And I just didn't know what that was going to look like. And so I started to really put feelers out. Like, I was on a second mat leave. I knew I wasn't going to go back to my catering job. And so anytime that I met anybody and we started to talk about work, I was like, well, I'm an event planner and I can go back to that job, which I love, but I really would just want to do something that has impact. And so I think it's cool. Like, when you actually tell people what you're looking for, you just never know where that's going to lead. And it led me to Equifruit. One day I was chatting with my now boss, and she told me about this company that she had just bought the year earlier, how they're a fair trade banana company. I'm like, what's a fair trade banana? I've heard of fair trade coffee and chocolate, but a banana, what's that all about? And she basically was like, bananas shouldn't be so cheap. Bananas are cheap because farmers are not paid well and they work under exploitative conditions. I had no idea. And I'm a very competitive person. So when I heard this, I was like, I want to solve this problem. That will make the world a better place. We all consume so many bananas. Nobody knows about fair trade bananas. We have less than 1% market share in Canada, less than 5% globally. So the world was my oyster, and I really jumped in 2 feet. I had no idea what the heck I was doing. Never worked in produce in my life. And we had to really start from scratch because she was a year in either. She had no idea what she was doing either. So like we signed up for the biggest trade show in Canada immediately, like the day that I joined the team. And like my first week on the job, I'm sitting down with a meeting of like Loblaws and like talking to them about why they need fair trade bananas. At the time, I had no idea what I was talking about, but you know, every year you just keep pushing and pushing until you improve. And now I'm going into my 8th year with the company, and we're not anywhere close to the Equifruit that we started off together as.
What was that first year like? What was the biggest challenges you as a salesperson? Like you said, you were the very first salesperson.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they didn't have any, like policies, procedures on how to operate, so everything was on your shoulders. What was like the biggest blunders that you faced in the first year?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Like, how much time do you have? So I guess one of the biggest challenges that I faced professionally was that nobody that I worked with, and the team was 2 people, nobody had a sales background. So, you know, when you go and work for a new company and you want to go and sell the service or product that they have, it's really helpful when they can actually tell you what your sales pitch should look like. And they can give you a sense of the types of rebuttals that you're going to hear so that you're prepared to answer any possible rebuttal. So I had some information about how our business worked, but I had no idea what our first sales meeting would look like. So for the first year, I actually brought the president with me to like all the sales meetings because I would rather show up with somebody who might fill in the gap than try to do it all on my own and look like an idiot and actually screw up the business. So we were like a good team for the first year or 2. We would go to sales meetings together. She was learning about how to sell and reading into things that was not on her radar, like reading body language, asking questions, you know, how to plan out follow-up after a meeting and how to really gauge what are your customers' pain points and how you can solve them. And so from there, you know, there were a whole bunch of challenges learning how to actually sell the product. But beyond that, you know, just not being equipped to sell, the biggest challenge that I faced was that I was trying to sell a more expensive banana and nobody wanted to buy a more expensive banana. And there was nothing on our packaging that differentiated fair trade versus a regular banana. It was the same, you know, when you go to the cash now, when you sometimes check yourself out at the cash and you put in your little code for bananas 4011 or for organic bananas 94011, ours was the same exact code. And so people would say, like, why would I buy your banana when at the point of sale, there's no differentiation? So we had to overcome these challenges over the years. We eventually changed our code. We changed a lot about the brand. Now all of the packaging, the website, the social media is all different too. We did a huge rebranding in 2020. I think that you have to approach all of the challenges that you face in sales and entrepreneurship with your ego checked, because if you just want to believe that you're going to get it right the first time every time and keep, you know, patting yourself on the back, you're never going to learn or grow. So I think really approaching your business and sales with a posture of humility is so important to being successful.
How do those first meetings go? Like, was it just a pitching of like, you know, this is in the right thing to do, or like, what was the points that you were trying to like sell on for you to buy this more expensive banana, like you're saying? Because it's a commodity, right? In our brains, in the stock market, a banana is a commodity.
Yeah.
It's just quantity and price, right? Like you're saying. So like, what was the pitch? That's
Yeah, I think that you kind of nailed it. It was really like, this is the right thing to do. You know, it was like it was very preachy in the beginning. Like, it was like, did you know that the banana business was built on the backs of farmers, and that it's, you know, there's so much human and environmental exploitation. And it was so heavy for the buyers to hear this. Like, you don't want to hear that. You don't want to hear that, like, your whole life you've been working as a buyer in produce and you've been contributing to the misery of farmers in the global South. So that was tough, because I'm like, it is the right thing to do, but how do you tell people that in a way that they get excited and they want to do the right thing? And it took us a number of years to get to the point where we had to get real about what was working and what wasn't working. And I think that what was working was that people liked working with Equifruit. We're a dynamic group of women who are laser focused on disrupting the banana industry. We're easy to talk to. We're a reliable supplier. We have a quality product. But then there was that element of price. Like, how am I going to communicate that I am doing the right thing to my consumers? So that really helped us to think more about how can we invest in the marketing and the merchandising side of things so that we can equip our distributors and retailers to tell their final end customer that this is a fair trade certified banana. And not just that it's a fair trade certified banana, but it's an Equifruit banana. And Equifruit is this Canadian brand that's been disrupting the banana industry since 2006. Like, how do we tell that story? So we really have evolved over time to become not just an importer, but we call ourselves an importer and marketer of fair trade bananas. And we realized how it was so important to move away from just being a commodity, but we had to build a brand. And when a consumer understands what a brand is and they fall in love with that brand for X, Y, and Z reasons, you can win them over for life. And you can get them to become part of your sales and marketing team because they're so excited about what you're doing. They go out there and they authentically sell for you and tell their friends and family about Equifruit and why you should choose that banana over another multinational brand because of, all the cool things that we're teaching them about, whether it's on our social media or on our website or wherever you're learning about us.
Yeah, I mean, you led the conversation straight into another topic that I want to hit was that, when you're selling on a commodity and you're selling something that is just, let's say, for example, this year I've been starting a beef jerky business. Cool. And I've been talking to farmers and they reference a lot of the time, like in the COVID shutdowns where they couldn't sell to the distributors, the people, the one big global company that was buying everything from all the farmers. And it's like, no, nobody's buying, you're screwed. They can't sell anything. And I started thinking, well, how can these guys fix it? And obviously, being a marketer, like, well, look, nobody's going to buy, like you said, a banana that's equal to the other banana. But if they start a brand, if they start doing something with their meat, like beef jerky or anything, a product, and start building a brand on top of them, nobody's going to be like thinking, oh, I'm just buying a piece of meat. Oh, I'm just buying a banana. I'm buying a banana from Equifruit.
Right.
And then the whole conversation of price goes away, right? Because you want to be part of the club. You want to be part of that group, and it costs what it costs.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that first meeting I told you about with a big chain in Canada in our first produce show, I remember the buyer, he's like, what is your value add? Like, he was so confused by the end of our pitch. He's like, I hear the passion. I hear that you're into it. I hear you want to change the banana industry, but like, explain to me what your value add is. And I mean, at the time, our answer is still very much a part of the answer we would give today, which is that we have an authenticity as a brand. Since day one, 100% of the bananas that we've imported have been fair trade certified. We are so committed to paying farmers fairly and making sure that they work under equitable conditions that we'll never stray from that. We've had other companies say, like, why don't you just, to keep money going in and out, why don't you just buy some regular bananas or other fruits and vegetables that are not fair trade? Because you can make a quick buck, under the right conditions. And we're like, no, that's not what we're trying to do. We want to do 100% fair trade. And if we can't find the right partners to do it with us, then we won't find the right partners, but we're going to die trying. Like, we just have to go 100%. And so that served us well as a brand, because any of the large banana companies can go out and start working with fair trade certified growers, or they can, if they pass all the audits and hit all the standards, they can also become fair trade certified. So there's no distinction, at that point, pure commodity, pure certification. If you don't have that brand element and that authenticity and that cool story and marketing, then you're just going to get lost in the sea of brands or commodities, and nobody's really going to care about you. But if you can really carve out a name for yourself and get people to feel part of what you're doing and feel excited about what you're doing, that's really going to propel your brand forward and contribute to the success of the company.
Yeah. As a marketer and an entrepreneur, I don't envy your position that you are. I think I'm just going in my head, geez, going into those boardrooms and pitching the same thing, but more expensive in the mind of the person buying it, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, the challenge that you say, like, I'm going to do this and we're going to figure this out. Yeah, it's also exciting. So I don't envy you. When did you start getting out of sales and become more of sales and marketing director?
Well, because the company is so small, I was always involved in the marketing side, like what trade shows are we going to do, or are we going to invest in print media or whatever opportunities were on the table. We had such a small marketing budget when I first started. When I think about how small it was, we did the best we could do. We photoshopped our own brochures and we had them printed at the university print shop because it was cheaper than like really, we did everything we could to cut corners. No, at a certain point, maybe I think it was 2 years ago at this point, my boss, she was reevaluating my position and she had a lot of faith in my instincts when it came to marketing. And so without even asking, she promoted me to director of sales and marketing. And at first I was like, are you sure that there was a bit of like imposter syndrome there. Like I'm not formally trained in marketing. Yes, I've had a lot of work experience. But I don't know the jargon and the terminology. And if you gave me a marketing quiz today, I'd probably still fail it. But do I have the instincts of like what works and what doesn't? Yes. So that's how I got into it. And over time, I've just tried to learn. I've also surrounded myself and started to build up a marketing team that can teach me, and I'm very transparent with the team. Like, this is what I know and this is what I don't know. Tell me about this and always keep me informed. So, and you just have to keep putting yourself out there. I actually recently applied to be on the marketing council for the International Fresh Produce Association in the US, and they accepted me on the marketing team. So I'm supposed to go to this marketing conference in May, and I'll just figure it out. Like I'm not a professional. I guess I am. I'm a professional marketer, but yeah, there's definitely still that feeling of imposter syndrome. But if you just keep learning from the people around you, and even the experience of doing this rebranding with an agency, I mean, I was like a sponge, just soaking up what the whole process was to do a rebrand. And I loved it. I've always, since I was a little kid, been super interested in marketing. And before I decided to do my degree in psychology, I wanted to go into marketing and communications, but I just had to make a choice of what I wanted to do. And psychology ended up working out. So I guess I've always been interested in how people make decisions and how they interpret information. So it's all kind of wrapped up together. And it's not uncommon to meet people who work in marketing that have a psych background and they kind of just, ended up in that role from one position leading to another.
Yeah, I think the best marketers are not, they're self-taught, they're people that naturally understand the end consumer and understand people. And they learn along the way what they need to do, like the social media and all that stuff. And so I don't think you should discourage yourself because no,
it's like I'm very self-critical, so I'm always like checking in with myself, like how am I doing and how can I do better? And it's just my way of just being transparent and saying I want to do better. I'm not going to tell myself just quit. I'm never going to quit. But I think that kind of pushes me to always say I want to improve and I want to get better. But I'm very proud of the work that our team is doing. I'm very proud of the contribution that I've made to Equifruit and will continue to make. I love our brand. I think we're the most badass banana brand on the planet. And I'm so excited to share our website and our social media. And we have even this new digital sell sheet that's so cool. It's just fun when you feel like you're part of something that's really effective. Like I feel like I could speak to anybody and after 15 minutes talk to them about Equifruit and why they should work with our brand. And I feel like I can convert anybody. And part of that is passion, but part of that is also having the visual tools to accompany that passion. And that's really where the marketing comes in, to be able to take those ideas and put them down on paper and put them onto a screen these days.
Why don't we go back to that moment for your rebrand? When did you when did the idea come from? When did the idea come to you that you needed a new look, a new direction, and most importantly, how do you pitch that to the owners? Because I've been in your shoes, maybe not so close to them because you've already had a couple of years with them, but telling them you need to look and be completely different.
Yeah,
it's a scary pitch.
For sure. It was a scary pitch. Okay, so the moment was like, it was like exactly when the pandemic was getting real. It was like March 2020, and stuff started to get canceled, and then more stuff started to get canceled. And like all of these trade shows that we were supposed to do, they weren't happening anymore. And we were like, okay, well, we're very lucky as a company because banana sales took off like crazy. Like if we had double the amount of fruit that we were bringing, we would have sold it. But we just kept increasing our orders every week with our growers, and it just kept selling and selling and selling. So we were in a very fortunate position where we had the capital to invest in better marketing. And so we started to sit down as a team and say, look, the rest of the year, we don't know what this is going to look like. You know, every week everything was changing. But I said, why don't we take the opportunity to make some improvements? Like, let's start with the website. I said, I honestly don't really like our website. I found that the customer journey was very confusing. And just like the brochures that we were designing ourselves, like our website, we also made it ourselves. And over years, some people came in and contributed this part of the website, and then we added this blog, and then we stopped doing that blog. And there was just so many inconsistencies. So we started by
creation.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what it felt like. It felt like a Frankenstein website where we were very earnest trying to do a good job to sell the bananas, but the website was not a good sales tool. And I was honestly embarrassed to show it to people because it wasn't helping me out. And because I've always been alone in the sales portion of Equifruit, I need all the help that I can get. So if our website doesn't help, then like, let's kill it. Let's get rid of it and let's change it. And then we were like, well, if we're going to change the website and reach out to a company that can help us with that, like I said, well, I don't really like our packaging either. Why don't we think about that? Because it's the most important part of our whole business. We can have an amazing website. We can have the coolest Instagram. We can have the coolest TikTok. But 90% of our customers, maybe even more, are only going to ever interact with our brand on the bananas and whatever they put in their cart. So if it's our organic fair trade bananas with a band around them, or if it's our conventional bananas that just have a tiny, like 1-inch sticker, that's the only real estate that we have to communicate what Equifruit is all about. Are we really maximizing that real estate? So it became clear to us that we all felt like we could do better, but we had no idea what that looked like. And then there was we have this nice corporate culture where we'll support each other. Like, again, my boss always trusted my marketing instincts, and she had just made me director of marketing. So she's like, okay, if you feel this way, then let's explore it. And one thing we had even thought about for years was, do we change the name of the company? Like in English, sometimes people mispronounce Equifruit, and we've heard all the different pronunciations possible. And we thought, is that hindering us as a brand? Is it maybe time that we change everything? So anyways, we interviewed a bunch of agencies, and we ended up working with one in Montreal called Tux. And we came to them with all of our problems, and they were just amazing. Firstly, they were all Equifruit customers, but they didn't know anything about the whole fair trade side. And once they learned about the history of the banana industry and how terrible it is, it's really dark and awful. They were so motivated to make us impossible to ignore, because that's really what we felt was happening. We felt like we just kept going out and pitching and pitching and pitching, and people just ignored us, like in a really friendly and polite way, very Canadian, like, oh, you guys are so passionate. We love what you're doing, but it's not for us. You know, we couldn't possibly spend more on bananas, and our customers couldn't possibly afford a banana that's 20 more cents per pound. Like, it was just ridiculous. And so we were like, we have to fix this. And it wasn't easy. Going through a rebrand is not easy, because it's like therapy. You have to get really real about what's working and what's not working. And people can be really like really sentimental about our old Facebook page. Like there was a day I'll never forget where we had to delete our entire social media, all of our Facebook, all of our Instagram, all of our Twitter, like anything that had ever been out there with the old branding had to go. And so like we took pictures of it all and it's all saved in an archive. But it was such an emotional day for a lot of people because there was this risk that like, what if the new branding won't resonate with people? What if it doesn't work? There's so much hard work that goes into it and so much trust required to execute it well. But anyway, thankfully we had such a positive experience working with the agency and they really got us and they made us look so cool. We could have never come up with this on our own. And once they gave us the tools, they released us into the world to keep executing on our own. Like we do all of our own social media. We do all of our design work is now done in-house. But they got us to that next level. There was like pre-tax Equifruit and then there's post-tax Equifruit. And this new Equifruit is so much cooler. And we're 1,000 times more confident than we ever were. And we were already a very confident brand, but now we're hyper confident, which is like literally printed into our brand guidelines.
Were there any holdouts? Like you're saying, some people were being emotional and having a connection with the last brand. Were there any difficult conversations or was it just going through it, like you said, until they saw the brand and you're like, you know what? Okay, yeah, let's do this.
No, dude, there were tons of holdouts. I think the hardest one, this is one that I really had to fight for. The hardest one was for me to convince our team that we shouldn't put the fair trade mark on everything that we do all the time. And they were like, are you crazy? That's who we are. That's everything that we are. It's 100% fair trade. And I'm like, okay, so let's put the words 100% fair trade, but let's not put another logo because that's confusing for people because they're never going to pay attention to the Equifruit logo if they're already familiar with the fair trade logo. And that was a really hard one to convince people of. And I'm really grateful that the team was eventually open to that feedback. And it's paying off now because more and more of the big multinationals are starting to go out and buy a couple of fair trade bananas here and there to serve little pockets of the market. But that was essentially my argument was we're selling a commodity. And if we put that fair trade mark first and foremost as like who we are, there's nothing that differentiates us from a big multinational that gets that same certification. So we always have to put forward what's unique to Equifruit. And that's going to be our new logo, our brand colors, and any assets that we really want to become more salient. So like our jagged banana behind me, or like, we printed on our swag, on our cap, or any of our brand colors. That's where we want to build salience with those assets. We've even trademarked the only banana you should buy. And we want to just have repetitive exposure of those assets so that those are the elements that people become familiar with. So I would say that was hands down the hardest one, but it's paid off in the end. And I think that it was a difficult conversation to have with the team, but I really trusted my instinct on that one. And I'm really happy that they were able to trust me there because it requires a lot of trust, Yeah,
definitely. I think you think that, well, definitely the trust that you had already built up with the owners really helped you with this because it is a hard thing to tell somebody, what the way you look, the way you are, and you've been acting, it's kind of holding back about your potential, right? Mm-hmm. And I think the one thing that I tell people when I'm talking about rebranding is, well, look, does your present brand match the idea of the huge empire or whatever you have built up? Does it match? And usually that's the click for them. It's like, well, no, I want to be, even if their ambition says I want to be a multi-business entity with stores all over the world and kind of stuff. Well, okay, then does your $5 logo match that?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a tough one, but.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully with the owner, she had bought the company a year before. And a lot of what came with the company, she wasn't so crazy about it either. Like she actually changed the name of the company already. When she came into the business, it used to be called Equicosta. And it was called Equicosta because the old owners, they loved Costa Rica. But guess what?
Oh, okay.
Our bananas didn't come from Costa Rica. So guess what every single conversation started off as? Oh, Equicosta, are your bananas from Costa Rica? No, why not? It's like, she was like, it was the worst way. So she went to go change the name of the company. And she was like, I don't know, what do I change the name of the company to? So she just swapped out Costa for fruit. And then stuck with that. And when I first came into the company, she had to change the logo because our old logo, our old logo, it looked like broccoli. It was like this broccoli with like a yellow circle around it and then Equicosta at the top. And so the broccoli logo, I don't know what that was all about. Like my first month in the company, we were going to this other agency and switching out the broccoli logo for like anything else. And so our logo up until 2 years ago, it was the words Equifruit, but we made the I look like a person so that we're thinking about the humans in our supply chain. And like, it served us well for the 6 years that we had it, but it was really time to retire it because it wasn't as good as it could have been. It wasn't memorable. And I was in a meeting in New York last month, and I was chatting with somebody who also works in produce, and he is now working with that same agency actually for a rebrand with his company. And he said that one of the things that always struck him about Equifruit was our logo. He's like, you know, and our logo, by the way, this is our logo here. So he said, like, it's very editorial looking. He said it almost looks, you know, I always said it looks like a barcode almost. So he's like, the first time that I saw your logo, it kind of drove me crazy because it looks nothing like anybody's logo in produce. Like everybody has these kind of like, I don't know how you would describe other produce logos, but not the way that an Equifruit logo looks. And then that's really what helped him to say like, okay, well, it stood out to me, whether I like it or not, it stood out. And that's what marketing needs to do, right? It needs to set you apart in a sea of brands. How can you be memorable? How can you be eye-catching? And I love our logo.
With your new rebrand, how long have you been had the new look?
We put it out to the market last January, so just a bit over a year now. Yeah.
With the whole new different push, have you started seeing people come to you instead of you go to them?
Totally. Yeah, we've had, some sales have come to us organically. A lot of growth with our current customers came organically. So, I mean, a shining example of that would be Longo's in Ontario. We had already been working with them on an organic fair trade program on bananas for 3-4 years at that point. But when they saw the new branding, like I showed it to all of our customers before we put it into the market because I was ready to update their point of sale material and work with them on a social media campaign to help promote the new branding. And the same day that Longo's saw it, they called me that afternoon and said, look, I know you've been talking to us about conventional bananas for years, and we weren't ready in the past, but maybe with this new branding, we can give it a try and trial it in a couple of stores and see how that works. So and then that led to them eventually 4 months later, we did a trial for 4 months, and then they ended up rolling out to all of their stores, all of Grocery Gateway, made 100% commitment to only Equifruit bananas. And that's like a first in North America. So it speaks to the power of branding for them to have the confidence that the packaging looks so good, that the brand is so solid, that they were willing to raise the price on their bananas from 69 cents to 99 cents a pound was huge. And then that's when we started to get calls from other stores like Nature's Emporium called us and they said, look, we love what you did with Longo's. We also want to make a switch to 100% Equifruit. And then we had been having discussions since early January with Costco, and then they were ready to do a trial. So we're doing a trial in select stores in Ontario since October. And I mean, Costco, that could turn into, who knows what that could turn into? It's Costco, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I mean, one of the things that Costco loves about us the most is our box. Like when you go onto the Costco floor and you see the other banana brand next to the Equifruit brand, like it's just night and day. It pops, it's so colorful, and they just love the way that stands out. And I remember being in a Costco visiting and watching people come and buy our bananas and like read the packaging on it, because our bananas have these crazy messages like the only banana to reverse aging, or the only banana on 5G, or the only banana to binge watch. And it has like these funny messages. And it's so cool to watch somebody in a Costco where it's just like a
madness.
Total madness. Yeah, it feels like apocalyptic every
Yeah.
time you're there. To have people stop and pick up and learn about fair trade bananas, like it's a dream come true. It's super exciting. And that would have never happened unless our branding looked the way that it did. We could be the most earnest people on the planet with like the most lovely sales pitch. But if your packaging is not on point, if your socials are not on point, if your website's not on point, then you're just not going to get there.
I want to add two things to that. First of all, yes, your packaging could give you a good awareness intake, but I think you guys match it, right? Like you guys actually fulfill that bright future.
Yeah.
It's not because a company could make a flashy packaging and then people buy it, and then you find out that they're kind of shitty people, I'd say. And,
Yeah.
But I think it's a combination of who you guys are as a business and the packaging.
Well, thank you for saying that.
Yeah. And I forgot about the second thing I was going to say. So.
That's okay. I'm so thrilled to hear the first thing. I always felt that, and I think that maybe this is part of the fact that I did door-to-door sales for so many years. Door-to-door sales is the scariest thing that you could ever do in sales, hands down. I mean, I've literally been escorted out of buildings. I was even put in the back of a cop car once because they thought I was doing something illegal, like legitimately the scariest thing that you could possibly do. But I think that what it really builds in your heart is compassion and empathy. And I think that you always have to treat people kindly and treat others the way that you would want to be treated. And I think that that's a really important part of being in business. People might not always be saying yes to you and buying what you're trying to sell, but if you treat them kindly, they'll always remember that. And you just never know, with tools like LinkedIn, you see somebody in one job one day and 5 years later, they're the person that you need to speak to at this other company. And so I think that kindness and compassion, which our whole team really has, we have such a wonderful corporate culture. I think that that's also really a sort of part of our secret sauce. And I think that people see us trying to do something really cool, which is disrupt the banana industry. But I think that they also enjoy working with us because we're transparent and we have a lot of open communication. When we screw up, we apologize. When we're doing well, we want to share that with them. We don't want to just hoard all of it to ourselves. We know that without the support of our retail and distribution partners, we would have nothing. So all of the stores that have made that commitment to say, okay, we want to change the banana industry with you, we will increase our price and we will buy Equifruit bananas, like they're all part of that brand success. And I think that they feel celebrated anytime that we do get, a little bit of love from the industry.
I don't think I'm going to add any kind of smart remark to that. That was perfect and beautiful to wrap it up. Would you like to add anything else before we close it off?
Yeah, Equifruits on TikTok.
Awesome.
We just joined TikTok. For anybody that's looking to follow the coolest and most badass banana brand out there, check us out on social media at Equifruit, or on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, and now TikTok. We're giving that a go. And check out our crazy shark-infested website, www.equifruit.com. And if you don't know anything about the banana industry and you are very curious now, do some research on your own. Get on Google, look up the history of the banana industry, look up what the term banana republic means. And trust me, once you learn about the dark past and what's made bananas so cheap, then all of the human and environmental exploitation, you're going to be happy to spend that extra $10 a year, which is what it costs to buy fair trade bananas.
I love how you put it. More realistic, $10 a year. Doesn't seem so bad, does it?
Nope, not at all.
1.5 Starbucks coffee.
Yeah, 1 1/3. Starbucks is like $7 these days for a small coffee.
Oh, that inflation.
Yeah, crazy.
Well, thank you, Kim, for enlightening us and sharing your story with us. And I hope this opens some eyes and entertains some people.
Yeah, thanks for giving us the platform to share our story. I'm delighted to be here.
All right. Well, thank you, Kim. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
So we're done with this episode, and Kim left us with a couple of gold nuggets that we have to keep for later. First of all, those pitches that they were doing to distributors where they couldn't really translate the value into how the distributors wanted to see it, and how the rebranding and then generating the need of their product and stepping away from a commodity, but creating their own brand, their own awareness and their own necessity, creating their own demand. I think we loop back into everything that's going on in marketing now, is that businesses can create their own demand, and businesses that create their own demand end up winning because they don't need anybody else. So yes, the rebrand really helped them to start getting that attention, but it wasn't just that. They were an amazing company to begin with. So with the extra added attention, people were able to see that and they're off to the races. So incredible episode. I hope you enjoyed. Catch you on the next one.